Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're watching this on the day it came out, the Splatoon franchise has existed for exactly 10 years now. I know I said I'm not doing much about Splatoon content, but I thought I should at least come back for the anniversary. Also, just a quick disclaimer, since this video is only 10 minutes long, I'll be leaving out a couple things and not going into too much detail. So if you've never played the game before or just want to take a trip down memory lane, this video is for you. Without further ado, let's get into it. In May of 2015, Nintendo released a game for the Wii U called Splatoon. The player in the game is a species called an Inkling, which is able to shift between a humanoid creature and a squid. They're also able to shoot ink. Every Inkling has different colored ink. It can be very easily changed, and if an Inkling gets hit by a different colored ink, they take damage. Some of the main characters in the game are Callie and Mari, who are the news reporters, as well as idols, Agent 3, the playable character in the story mode, and Captain Cuttlefish, an 127-year-old man who should get some help. The concept of the story mode is that there's another species called the Octarians that are the mortal enemies of Inklings. The Octarians live underground and stole all the Zapfish in Inkopolis, the place where the Inklings live. The Zapfish are the Inklings' main source of energy, so in the story mode, the player has to beat different levels and traverse the Octarian territory to get all the Zapfish back. For multiplayer battles, the main way to play is the game mode Turf War, where simply put, both teams have to spray ink all over the floor, and the team that has the most ink on the ground by the end of the round wins. There are also 3 other game modes called Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Splat Zones. There's one more aspect of the first Splatoon game that I haven't touched upon yet, which are Splatfests. Splatfests are events in Splatoon that last 24 hours. How they work is, there's a theme for each one. For example, cats vs. dogs, marshmallows vs. hot dogs, and pirates vs. ninjas. Each team is represented by one of the idols for each Splatfest, being either Callie or Mari. These normal Splatfests went on for about a year, but then Splatoon announced they would be doing a final Splatfest, and the winner of that would end up changing the feature of Splatoon. The Splatfest theme was Callie vs. Mari, and Mari ended up winning the Splatfest. And that is the entire first game. About 1 year later, Nintendo released Splatoon II on the Nintendo Switch. Splatoon 2 is both very similar and different from the original Splatoon game. It still takes place in Inkopolis, but in Splatoon it takes place in Inkopolis Plaza, while in Splatoon 2 it takes place in Inkopolis Square. It has the same objective, to get the Zapfish back to Inkopolis, but it takes place in Octo Canyon instead of Octo Valley. Also, the playable character is Agent 8 and not Agent 3. Remember how the Final Fest would impact the next game? Well, now, in the story mode, Mari helps the player with levels and completing the story mode, and what does Callie get for losing it? Being the final boss. Yeah. Though Callie and Mari are in the story mode, they aren't the news reporters/idols anymore. Now we have Pearl and Marina, who almost everyone in the community ships. For multiplayer, everything that was in Splatoon was also in Splatoon 2. We got a new ranked mode also, called Clan Blitz. We also got a completely new game mode called Salmon Run, where you have to sign up for a shady scam called Grizzco, run by a statue named Mr. Grizz, and invade a fish territory to kill them for no other reason to get money. Sounds fun, right? Splatoon 2 also had Splatfests, and also a Final Fest, the theme being much more impactful for the next game, Chaos vs. Order. In the end, Chaos won, and that's pretty much Splatoon 2. Except it's not. There's one huge part of the game that I completely left out, and that is the Octo Expansion. About a year before the Chaos vs. Order Splatfest, Splatoon released a DLC called Octo Expansion. How it worked was that the playable character was an Octoling, which is the most evolved form of Octarians, even being nearly the same as Inklings. The entire game takes place in an underground metro system where the playable character, Agent 8, has to beat levels to make it up to Inkopolis, since they just escaped from the rest of the Octarians. Also, Captain Cuttlefish is back and helps Agent 8. There are a total of 80 levels, so you're able to skip almost any of them if you please. Once the player does all of that, they get put into a giant blender, which is also fun, and then get saved by Agent 3. Yeah, the one from the original Splatoon. Then Agent 8 has to do a couple of mini-levels and does a final boss fight with Pearl and Marina assisting. Once the players beat Octo Expansion, they're free to use the Octoling character in Inkopolis and in multiplayer battles. And that is all Splatoon 2. Only one game left. Over 5 whole years after the release of Splatoon 2, Nintendo released the game Splatoon 3, also on the Nintendo Switch. This time, the game takes place in Splatsville, a city in the middle of a chaotic, burning desert. The 3 idols are Shiver, Fry, and Big Man, because he's a manta ray, get it? The story mode follows Agent 3, but not the original Agent 3, a different one. People usually just call him Neo Agent 3. The story mode is very different from the other 2. For some reason, it has the same main objective, though, still, to save all the Zapfish. Most of the story mode takes place in Alterna, a calm, peaceful, snow-themed area. The objective is to beat levels and save the Zapfish. Once the player makes it around Alterna, they realize that the problem is much bigger than the Zapfish getting stolen, but remember Mr. Grizz from Splatoon 2? Well, now he's not just a little statue, he's a giant bear, and his goal is to turn all the anthropomorphic sea life into mammals. The player has to go to space, and there's a final boss fight to beat him. Then the world gets saved, the Zapfish get back, and everything's good and happy. Now, let's talk a little bit about Splatsville. It has a lot of changes from the first 2 games, so I won't be going into detail on every single thing. All the game modes from the first 2 games are back, and there's even a new one called Table Turf Battle, which is a card game mode. The lobby's a lot bigger now, and players also have lockers now, which they can customize. Splatoon 3 also has a DLC. The playable character is an Agent 8 again, and the idea is that they're stuck in a VR headset and have to beat levels in a tower called the Spire of Order to again save the world. Does that name Order ring a bell perhaps? Well, this entire DLC was based on the idea of the concept of what if Order won the Splatfest and not Chaos. It's kind of interesting to think that this entire world could have just been the base game and not what we already had. It is much different than all of the other games and would have been way different than the entire Chaos universe. Personally, I think that Chaos was a much better team, and I could not say the entire game revolving around Order and the entire side Order world, though I do think it's a cool concept, and I think it's a good DLC. I do like Octo Expansion more, but it's still pretty good. Now, for a little bit more about the DLC, there isn't too much to talk about. It's very replayable, and also Pearl and Marina make a reappearance, as well as a new character named Oct, who uses they-them pronouns. Yippee. Once the player beats the Spire with any of the weapons, they can use that weapon in multiplayer battles, though there is the fact that it's just a reskin of a different weapon and works the exact same. But it is still sometimes kind of cool to show that you've won the entire DLC. Splatoon 3 also had an awesome Final Fest. This time the theme was past versus present versus future. This Splatfest was much different than all of the others, because this time, instead of a specific idol representing each team, for example, Fry representing one team, Shiver representing another, and Big Man representing another, this time each of the idol groups represented a team. So Callie and Mari represented Team Past, Pearl and Marina represented Team Present, and Fry, Shiver, and Big Man represented Team Future. Overall, it was really a fun Splatfest. It took place in a completely different area called the Grand Festival Plaza. And yeah, it was very fun. In the end, Team Past won. And that means we're getting a prequel for the next Splatoon game, which, if you're watching this at the time it has released, it's not out yet. It'll probably release on the Switch 2 eventually. And yeah, I guess that's the entirety of Splatoon 3. So, yeah, I guess really that's everything for now. 10 whole years, wow, that seems crazy that the series has been around for that long. I've only been playing since Splatoon 2, and not even since the start of it, but it still seems like a really long time. So, I guess, yeah, that's everything. Happy anniversary, Splatoon. 10 whole years, it's crazy. So, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe, but don't feel the pressure to. And yeah, that's all for now, so see you in the next one. Bye.